Top side of the map, Zeus and Keen. Two players that these teams are going to be relying on.
And top lane is relevant again, guys. I can't believe we've had to wait for it for this long. But this man showed us, right? Keen has showed it to us all throughout the regular split. Zeus, he tried his best, but wasn't really enough. But now, in the upper bracket final, that rumble with Ignite in game 2, that was a turning point.
Yeah, it certainly was. And his opposition, of course, on the other side, Keen, the unanimous All-Pro first here in the LCK, the man of the season for top lane. Didn't have as strong of a round 2 as he did in round 1, and obviously did end up getting kind of crushed by an overperforming Zeus the last time these two top laners met up. But Keen definitely could bounce back tonight, and in a big way bounce back in that Hanwha Life series, playing a little bit more weak side while the team was focused bottom.
Yeah, having unlocking Cuz to be the carry seemed to be the way for them to win that series, and we'll see whether we get a bit of that flavor moving into this one when these two face off. Very interested to see how it goes, but next Cavs off the rank, we're going to be heading towards the jungle. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting matchup because, of course, Cuz formerly played for T1. Oner going through a few struggles recently, but in their series against KT in that 5-gamer, definitely looked good. Let's welcome our junglers, starting with Oner.
And as mentioned, Oner hasn't had the best split, still very confident. Needs to be. Did definitely improve after the return of Faker, which is understandable, but I think that he needs to perform today. Cuz to me, even though he has fallen off a little bit in the playoffs, is still such a core part of why KT has been so good. He's been able to solo carry games on his Sejuani, on his Viego, and if Oner doesn't find a way to keep him down, the man we're about to see walk up here is going to have a field day.
He certainly will. Cuz has been so fantastic this year, starting with Spring, having a really big resurgence here in 2023. There's his signature pose, and the man has put so much pressure on the lanes that have the lead. So if it's bottom side and Lehens is getting control with aiming, he's going to put the pressure in further there, get some plate gold. He's going to do it top side for Keen when that's the pressure point. And obviously we'll link up with BDD for early pressure in lane as well. He's just been so useful in the early game, and they're playing through him a little bit more differently here towards playoffs. I think he's looked a little bit weaker as a result, but I think he's still a top-tier player, definitely who I favor in this particular jungle matchup.
Really interesting seeing the two of them walk out as well. I feel like it's just Ellen that's missing from that particular roster all those years ago. But we are now going to move towards the mid lane, one of the most historic matchups that we have, if not the most, here in the LCK. Almost up to their 100th match. Let's start with the man of the hour. It's Faker making his way back in.
And Faker has been absolutely pivotal to this team. The absence of him was more sorely felt than any player in recent times that I can remember. We saw how much better the team looked once he's gotten back, and while his laning phase still hasn't looked the way it did, say, a year ago, his impact in team fights has revitalized this team.
Yeah, it certainly has. But on the other side of the rift, a man who has the weaker of the win rate in this matchup as they reach 100 tonight. It's BDD, the pinnacle of clutch. He has been so valuable in team fights. He has won lost games for this team, and he is just so consistent. He has never fallen low. When some of the other players on KT have slipped up a little bit, he hasn't. He has been the most consistent player on this roster, and he's got such a storied history as well here in the LCK. Looking for his 3rd title. If he can win this tonight, move on to the finals, he might have that chance.
Both of these players with such an incredible legacy. And Faker, we'll see how that recovery has gone as well. It could be that he's even further powered up since we last saw him take to the Rift, and that could be pretty scary here for KT. But let's head towards the bottom side of the map. Gumayusi taking on aiming, and we'll start on the T1 side once again and introduce Gumayusi.
And one of the players that even during the struggles of T1, I think, tried to keep it together. That wasn't always successful. Not every week was a winner, but it was him and Zeus that at least were looking like a decent version of themselves. Very confident player as well, and with how T1, the team as a whole, has kind of shifted away from the lackluster form with Faker returning, I think he has been perhaps the biggest benefactor.
Yeah. And on the opposition here for KT Rolster, aiming has been a player who's benefited, I think, the most from the meta. Out of any AD carry in the LCK, it is certainly a good time to be an aiming fan with Kai'Sa being so strong at the moment. But he's also been one of KT's more inconsistent members in best of fives, known to slip up. Did so in that series against Genji when they're on this exact same stage of that tournament here in the lower bracket finals. He will have to come up big tonight, see if they can lean on him a little bit in draft to make sure he gets the picks that make him comfortable, as I feel like that's one edge that Guma, even though he's relied so much on the Xayah, has an edge over him in terms of champion pool.
I would agree. I think if you see T1 playing around the bottom side, you're not worried. If you see KT playing around the bottom side and you're a KT fan, you're very worried. Because this is a team that sort of just lets aiming do his thing and sees what happens after that. You know, it's mainly about Keen and B2D getting the carrying going. Or maybe it's about these gentlemen as Keria versus Lehens. Last season's MVP versus this season's. And let's introduce Keria first.
Keria, he was the MVP of spring. He changed the meta. He brought marksman back to the bottom lane in the support role. But he has been a little bit inconsistent, I think, though, peaking at the right time here at the end of the season, bringing back the memories of what he's done over the last several years on T1, on DRX, and I think peaking now is the best time, of course. As long as he's not on the Braum, we're pretty happy with his performances in playoffs so far.
His engages have been incredible, and he's taking on the Summer MVP. You gotta love this man, Lehens. Look at him. His ceremonies, his gusto, his comms, everything about this man just screams pure joy for League of Legends, but do not underestimate him. His impact on the map, and specifically the way that he and Cuz run early games, run mid games, have been so incredibly important for KT. And if Lehens is truly unlocked today, T1 is going to have to put up a hell of a fight.
Certainly will. I think so much is going to come down to what these two players have been playing. We've seen priority picks all over the place for both of these teams at bottom lane. And out of, like, the other teams that we've had here in the playoffs, we haven't seen that level of priority on supports. These teams rely on these players so incredibly much. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these drafts are going to provide for us, because it might mean so many of those high priority picks from other lanes are going to be left up because you need to ban Rakan, you need to ban Alistair. All of these things might come into fruition, and we'll see what sort of developments do happen over this draft as T1 versus KT. The fist bumps.
Man.
We are getting ready, boys. It is time for the lower bracket final. One of these teams will be going to the World Championship to join Genji. Oh man, I cannot wait.
It's going to be able to take this. Atlas, to watch them fist bump on the stage here. We have such a massive crowd here in Daejeon, and I love this new format where we get to have